Welcome to the Charlie Spice Show. I'm your host, Charlie Spice. This is a weekly live stream talk show that features news, reviews, and interviews on topics which are salacious, taboo, and of course, controversial. If you have an interesting and compelling story to share with our viewers, I invite you to be a guest on my show. Simply contact our production team at charliespice@gmail.com. You can also reach us via Twitter at charliespice, or you can visit our website at charliespice.com. Thank you for tuning in to our show. Hi, I'm Charlie Spice. In this episode of the Charlie Spice Show, we highlight the problem of child sex abuse, which has been plaguing society in Barbados for many years. When I was growing up in Barbados as a child, there was also widespread sexual abuse of children, but there was no internet and no social media. Therefore, it was not so well publicized or known. Today, we see it everywhere. Child sex abuse is one of the causes of widespread promiscuity amongst underage boys and girls. Underage sexual activity in Barbados is at an all-time high. There is undeniably, this is undeniably evidenced by the countless number of videos of school kids engaging in sexual intercourse being circulated via social media. The boldness and audacity of these kids baffles me, as they allow themselves to be filmed on video, which could lead to exposure via social media. Many of them do not even bother to conceal their faces or school based on the fact that they are in school uniform. All of the above concerns beg the question: what are parents, teachers, the child care board, the police, and other government agencies doing about these issues? In my recent research, the general consensus is that not enough is being done to address the scourge of child sex abuse in communities around Barbados. As a result, I have taken it upon myself to host a series of virtual town hall meetings to give concerned citizens and government officials a platform to publicly discuss these or their concerns about these issues. The talking points will be as follows: child sex abuse, child prostitution, sexual activity in schools, child sex tourism, society's denial, sex videos of school kids on social media, causes, the impact on children, the impact on society, pedophilia in Barbados, therapy for victims and survivors alike, prosecution of child sex offenders, the launching of a sex offenders registry in Barbados, and finally, solutions. The virtual town hall meetings will commence on Saturday, the 22nd of July, 2023 at 3 p.m. As this is a virtual event, the guest speakers, panel members, and the general public can attend and participate online with the use of their smartphones, computers, and of course, internet access. Today we have an interesting guest with us. This lady is one of very few people with the courage to come forward and speak out about her experience with child sex abuse, starting from the age of 10 and again at age 11. Her experience with going through the system of the Barbados Child Care Board and the Government Information School, which is a school for young offenders. Um, she's here to share her story with you and to highlight what she thinks could or should be done to improve systems in Barbados to not only protect children from abuse, but also to provide the support that is needed after the fact. Without any further ado, allow me to introduce Nikki. Good afternoon, Nikki. How are you doing today?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm fine, and you?
I'm good. I'm good. I don't know why I'm a bit nervous for this interview. I've had so many interviews for so many years.
I'm
I've been
nervous as well, so we're in the same boat.
I've been in front of the camera, behind the camera, and I've never been as nervous as this one because this one is so real. This one is so sensitive for me. Nikki, thank you very much for coming on the show. I want you to take us back, like you did 2 days ago, like you took me back 2 days ago. When you were 10 years old, when did this? How did this get started? When were you first abused?
Well, it started at 10. My grand were keeping some cousins. Their father had passed away, so her being the type of person, this Christianity whole thing, she took the main. It started just as a touchy chutty, touch here, touch there.
Yes.
Um, but it was how to put it. When you live with a family that the women are so insecure and they themselves haven't been going through the abuse and still going through the abuse with their spouses,
Yeah.
it's so hard to you make a complaint, but it being brushed off as though oh you're probably making it up, or man, it's like it's happened to you, but to them it's like a story. It hasn't happened, so you just sweep it under the carpet.
Okay, tell us how old you were and what actually happened. Now, you don't need to mention any names. That is very important. Just tell us what happened, and then tell us how you reported it to your family members and exactly what they said to you.
To be honest, it happened as just like a touch on the private parts, a touch on the breast. And to be honest, I never really complained. And why? Coming up as a younger child, my mother having me at 15, my dad not being prosecuted, seeing certain things in my family and how the men in my family were. After speaking it out about a event that happened before that, I realized speaking or complaining, it didn't matter. It was always pushed under the rug, or ain't true, or you weren't believed. So basically, I just dealt with it and kept my mouth shut and said nothing.
Mhm. Well, if your mom if your mom became pregnant at 15, this obviously suggests that she was sexually abused as a minor as well. She would have been
Yeah,
14, perhaps. Okay.
my dad
Okay.
was way older.
Did she report to anyone, the police or relatives?
I was saying no because coming up, I never heard anyone say anything about it. It was as though it was normal. She kept saying my dad. So to me, it was a normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay.
why we'll just put in there is that I figure to me now being an adult and seeing it, my grandmother not being really educated that kind of way, and things being hard and being rough, and not having a spouse to really, pull his half of the way. If you have someone there that, doing an extra job according to we Bajans, they're gonna, shut the eye and look the other way.
Yes. Hmm. Was the matter reported to the police? The matter of you being sexually abused at 10 years old, did it get to the police?
Things never were brought to the police attention. My family is the type of family that keeps everything to themselves, dealing with the two different Christianities, Granville, Seventh Day Adventist. Things were always a hush to hush basis. Whatever happened indoors happened indoors.
Mhm. How did this affect you mentally, emotionally? Certainly affect you physically and sexually, but what about emotionally? How did it change you?
Well, emotionally, first thing first to say, being a child at 10, not only going through something like that, but having a mother being a prostitute, going to school, it was tough because sometimes you will have mothers at the gate, shouting and cursing because everybody knew my mother. Oh, your mother, my husband, you could be just like your mother, you could be this. And then to actually go through something like that at 10 years old and speaking to my grandmother, and then she just brushing it off as, it was a play thing. No, that particular thing didn't happen. I just like trying to make me believe. I just imagine it. It
If
never
you're
took place.
But Nikki, if you're raped at 10, there are obvious physical signs of being raped.
Well, to them, it wasn't rape to her because it was just fingers. It wasn't like he,
Okay.
but still, even though she was in denial, she was still like, it didn't happen. Hush, keep your mouth shut. That ain't
Mhm,
true. It just telling a tale or a story.
mhm,
So
mhm.
I just kept my mouth shut, and eventually they ended up leaving and going back to certain another families, and that was the end of that.
Did it cause you to continue to be sexually active at that young age because you were raped and, of course, nothing was done about it? Did it cause you to continue to be sexually active or not?
Well, I wasn't sexually active at 10. I actually became sexually active when I was actually raped, which I was penetrated by more than one person. At 10, being touched, it made me feel as though, again, seeing how my family were, remain my women, my family being abused, being beaten, I actually thought, it was kind of normal because, again, as I said, everything was kept inside. Nothing was because
Yeah,
my family has a tendency, they want nobody know the business because then everybody could be talking and everybody could be pointing. So it was always everything indoors. What stays inside the house happens in house stays in the house. So
yes,
when they left, I basically just tried to continue. I wasn't as joyous as I used to be. 'Cause I used to take part in a lot of activities in the church. I was a youth um adventure. I used to do AYs. I was a youth minister, a youth pastor, as I call it.
yeah.
And I wasn't as joyous. I didn't take part in church as I used to. I
Okay.
didn't. I just stayed in a corner with my books, not stopped going outside to play. I wasn't eating as much. And
Mhm.
basically just kept it to myself and dealt with it as best as I could
Yeah.
have dealt with it.
Was there any person who empathized with you that you could rely on to speak with and get support from when you were 10 years old and that happened? Okay, your family members did not support you, but was there anyone, friend or other relatives or some adult that you confided in and gave you some type of support?
No, because even as a child, as a normal child, children are usually, they're able to go to lessons after school where there's a guidance counselor, or they're able to do stuff. I was prohibited. I wasn't allowed to go someplace. Even if I had to go there, I had to make sure that as soon as whatever finished, come straight back home. I wasn't allowed to really venture out or do much. It was like, as they used
Mm,
to call me, cage monkey. So I didn't really have that. And then, well, let me say this: there was this one time I did give a testimony at a church, a particular, not particular church,
yes.
and after giving that testimony, and I mean actually literally breaking down because we live in these memories. People said that it's okay to talk about it. But majority of the time when you talk about these things, it actually brings back up the memories and the flashback. It actually puts you sometimes almost in that particular spot of going through that
Yeah.
ordeal. So
Mhm.
for me, I didn't have anyone to speak to. So I just stuck to my books, reading my books, and just being as quiet and out to sea as I possibly could.
Okay, let us fast forward to the time you were raped and there was full sexual intercourse. Let us know how and when and at what age.
Well, I was 11 and some. I had went to, I think it was volleyball or some sort of activity that I had at school, even though I was told not to. I just decided one day, you know what, to hell with it. I want to go, I could go. Even though I know I might get licks or some type of punishment when I get home, I didn't care, it didn't matter. But I ended up going to this sport event. Then we left, and me and a couple friends walked from school to town. And getting all the van from home where he lives. It was just a campground on both sides. I was actually taken off of the road and carried to the back of the neighborhood, which again, pure campgrounds, put
Yes.
in a building and realized that there were more than three occupants in this house. I knew the persons, they be
Yeah.
around the family, they do work for the family, some of the family hang with them, line with them, whatever the case may be. That when they were finished, I weren't able to walk properly. One of them actually suggests he take me home and he took me as far as the church through my gap. That when he dropped me off, I tried to hold on to the railing walking, and then my grandmother walking coming outside and saw me. So her first impression was I the out with a man. I left school every since. It's after 10 o'clock. Yeah, probably 10:30. I did with a man. Here I am, my uniform. I mean, it will look like I went to school because the uniform ain't look like the uniform that I left home in. Bitching as a parent, automatically saying that should tell you something wrong. Went inside, bed, supper done, get the show. I wasn't there, so that's the end of that. Bed straight from my bed. That was my punishment. I'm coming home with my uniform looking like I went playing tug of war in the jungle. My hair looked like
So did you tell your parents, your grandmother and your mother, that you were raped by three men?
my mother was out of the picture after going through certain
Oh,
abuse with my mother's husband and back and forth from child care board to this body to that body. My grandmother took me in. Me thinking it would be better because my grandmother being a Christian person and not being a person to mix and mingle with people, I thought it would have been safer being
yeah.
with her than being with a mother that's a prostitute and just
Mm.
taking me from here, there, everywhere to every man. And then when I saw certain things happening, I'm being beat with broomstick, curtain rods, skipping ropes, whatever she could get her hands on, her fists, her feet, whatever could make
Yes.
her feel happy and good. I'm being beaten. Not only from her, then her husband has to share his set of blows and licks that he wants to share as well. So basically, I never had anyone because I started keep friends. I didn't able to trust anybody, so I never had anybody to talk to, but to complain to the same people that I lived with, only to be like not really physically slapped in the face, but slapped in the face and just back to my room like it never happened.
I have a question. Now, when these three gentlemen were abusing you sexually, at any point in time, did they give you the impression they were concerned about you going to the police?
I doubt because having family myself as well that on the criminal side of life, I doubt they thought that I would have because I was always that girl that was quiet, silent, head down in the ground, never talking to anybody, and everybody knew my grandparents. So
Hmm.
it was like nobody didn't care. There was no respect for my family because my family was always the type to venture the mouth a little too much where it wasn't wanted. So
Okay.
it was a total disrespect of my grandmother. Nobody cared. Nobody.
Okay.
So
Did you at any point in time consider going to the police?
no, seeing my mother being abused and going through, abusive things with my grandmother husband.
Mm.
As a child, 5 and 6, almost every night, if it ain't every night, it's like every other night or 2, 3 times a week, we at the police station with my grandmother husband doing something wrong with my mother.
Yes.
So then going to the police and being brought back to the same house under the same situation with the same people going to go through the same very thing.
Yeah.
I lost hope in police from there. Even before anything even happened to me, I lost faith in police from seeing women in my family going through abuse. But then when you say A, you have to say B. Because sometimes we as women we go through or even children, things happen. But because that person is there for them financially or that person is there playing a huge role in their life, they don't want nobody to know their business. They don't want to know that you got a child here being abused when you go to the police or you go and you tell somebody what's gonna happen, you gotta deal with everything that's put
Yeah.
on your plate by yourself. And I
Okay.
find that in these times, being a counselor myself back then, I find that that is a real big issue in these times. It's so hard to get a job. You have mothers out there actually literally selling. I know about two women actually selling. I had a friend that was almost charged here like 2 years ago. He had this young lady and everything was good. He was helping support the children. He was helping deal with her. And she actually tried to sell her first girl to him. And when he refused, it turned around then to be a whole story. He tried to rape the little girl. And if it wasn't for people like him speaking to people, she would have gotten him charged. This is something that actually happening rampant in Barbados, and
You
it's
mentioned
we're not
you mentioned the child care board. You had interaction with the child care board. Tell us about those interactions with the child care board and what was done, what was said to you. Tell us a bit about that.
that in all the institutes that I have been to, child care board was the worst experience. Because first thing first, a child come to you, it has bruises on its skin, it has black and blue marks. I'm telling you, I'm being abused by men that my mother deal with, and from my mother because if she doesn't get what she wants from these men, she does something wrong, she all set. I'm taking the backlash of it. Now I'm coming to you with bruises on my skin. It's not like it's just a story. You could see the actual bruises on my skin.
Hmm.
I cut back in school. I was always up front with my school academically. It was always a competition between me, my sister, and my cousin. I dropped back far. I'm not doing as well as I was doing. I'm
Yeah.
not taking part in activities. I'm looking at you telling me you I'm frightened to go back home with my mother. I'm literally begging you not to send me home back with my mother. Send me with my grandmother, put me in a home, put me anywhere but with my mother. And what did they do? Put me back with my mother. And to say this,
Hmm.
one night I was doing my hair for school. You know, back then, you be young girls, we like to gel up our hair. I in the mirror, I was doing my hair. And my mother husband came behind me and started to fondle my breast and had his hand between my legs. My mother was in the front house watching TV. I went to my mother and told my mother what happened. My mother started to curse, start to shout, gone to the back of the house, asked her husband what happened. He bringing God off his throne. This ain't happened. Now you know left 2 minutes giving me a gel to do my hair for school. We talking about what happening because tomorrow is a fun day. I think it was Independence Day or something. We had to dress up. You bought gel, you straightened my hair, everything went perfect that evening. Just out the blue, I could come to give you a story that your husband I ain't even get to finish the hairdo.
Yeah. Mm.
And then was the hurtful part about that is that gone to his father's funeral. I'm in a corner by myself. I'm praying. I'm depressed. I just feel like for a cousin to come to me to ask me what happened, me no frightened because I know when I speak out about things outside the home, I know when I get home, my mother, her husband got a good whooping for me. And and I told any lady what happened, and she was like, to find out this man did the same thing and even worse to some of his own female family members. That it got to a point I went up and down the neighborhood to his brother, the cousins, everybody that I could have seen, and I was telling them how he's a rapist. And these people looking at me like, oh, but it's like they don't know that, they knew.
It is a very it's very damning that a young a child does not feel encouraged to go to police or other authorities, namely the child care. Well, you've been to the child care board and
More than
you
once.
you feel as though you're not supported. It's quite damning to imagine that. And tell us about you, going forward. How did all of this impact your behavior going forward as a teenager?
Well, from 11 after the actual rape, I started smoking. I started drinking. I started not wanting to be home. So I would come home, put down my school bag, change my clothes, and go on the block run with some of the same people that have had actually abused me. Because it was like afterwards, you're getting money, you're getting a little snack for school because everybody know I wasn't getting anything to cash. So everybody got lunch money, everybody got snacks, everybody. I just got bus fare. So
Okay.
eventually I start liming on the block, drinking and smoking and taking the money from the guys. Sometimes oh my God, drop off a package here, oh my God, drop off a little package there. I started to build a certain reputation on the street because I came to a point that I had so much anger and hatred in me for my family and for my family friends, the people at church, people that I tried to reach out to speak to, and it was just being slapped in the face over and over till eventually it became so bad that me and my mother actually had a big fight. So I got to the point where I can't take the licks no more. On top of the rape, the abuse, I have my mother beating me left, right, center. Don't care where we are in public. Don't. I got to a point that I became so full of anger and hatred. We had a big clash out. That I didn't know how much anger I had in me till I had my mother was literally holding her head and staring at me with her eyes wide open, like, what the heck now happened there? So you know what was the next best thing for them to do? Put me in the government industrial school.
Okay. That was called Somerville at that time.
It was called both. It was both.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. So you're now at Somerville, and tell us about that experience.
To be honest, I would say it was the best thing that my mother could have done for me. Because while we were at court, the judge was only giving me 3 years. And for some reason, I don't know what story, because let me rewind a little bit. Going to the child care board and going police station and going, I was not really spoken to. Even though I was a victim, I was the reason why they were going to these different government agencies. I was hardly spoken to. I was hardly asked questions as to what happened, what is the reason you're behaving. I was hardly talked to. The most time I was talked to was when they decided that I'm crazy and they started letting me talk to a psychiatrist at the hospital, one at Ministry of Education, and one at the mental. Because these people actually had me feeling like I was mad.
I have a question. I have a question. When you were talking to the childcare board, at any point in time, did you tell them that you were raped on a number of occasions?
Yes, I did.
And can you remember what they said and did at that juncture?
If I could have even called the lady's name, I would
The
have. Because the lady that actually came to me, first lady that actually came to me, my mother and my grandmother knew her because they were going to church at the same, well, her and my mother were going to church at the same church. So when she came to me, obviously she and my mother being friends and she and my mother husband being friends, I was taught to like, oh, you need to be here. You getting your mother stressed. You this and you that. Now I got bruises for my skin because my mother cannot beat me without leaving marks on my skin. And I'm crying, pouring my eyes out. I'm begging not to go on my mother. I'm sitting down in a chair, holding a chair, and you're telling me about giving my mother stress.
doesn't the child care board have a duty of care, a responsibility to contact the police when a child, a minor, complains of being raped? Is it not the responsibility of the child care board to do that?
I went so far as Mr. Spice. They have a box in their reception area, whereas it has something about comments or questions, or if you have any problems, you're right. I wrote a letter and left it in their box. I was dealing with my daughter at the time, but because of the situation, I told them about what I know certain things that I went through and saying, why has the system not updated as yet? Why is it the same slow process? Everybody moving in their time. Nobody takes a child seriously. Seriously, when a child comes to you and says, mommy or daddy, this body touched my private parts. Well, in these times now, I see parents cussing and everybody just looking to fight. Nobody really studying the child that actually went through it or going through it. Everybody more focused on the parent. That time the child is still going through the ordeal, the mind all messed up. You're feeling like you're by yourself. You ain't feeling like nobody. You ain't loving yourself. You don't feel like anybody loves you. And you're trying to get help, and everybody else is focused on, well, basically everybody else except for you. You're not being looked at the way that you would think oh, would this happen to me? I looking for somebody to come and sit down, ask me what happened, ask me like where it happened, how I feel. It wasn't anything like that. It was the parents that said, oh, so how Nikita behave, sorry, how Nikki behaving? Um,
Mhm.
what she doing? What
Yeah.
she But the more you're telling these people, it's like they're trying to make you believe it did not happen. It's all in your mind. It never happened. So sometimes eventually after a point, I started to believe like it really couldn't happen, because if it happened, I'm crying out to church members, I'm at child care board, I'm at ministry education, I'm at the doctor at the hospital, I'm at the psychiatrist at the mental, and I telling all of these people what's happening, what's going on. I haven't gotten a court date. I haven't gotten anybody come into the neighborhood to investigate. Nothing like that. So after, not able to deal with it, being aggressive, fighting every minute, cursing every minute, smoking, drinking, I became one of the most hateful, aggressive little girls that you could have seen. My probation officer would tell you, you couldn't tell me nothing without me. I mean, really backlashing to the point that I want to physically hurt a person because of not nobody's listening to me. Nobody don't care basically, and it's hard being a child and not having a
Yes.
confidence, not being able to talk to a person and being believed. It's really hard. It plays with emotions, but it really plays with your mind.
I I feel your pain. I Are you aware of any other mm, children suffering the same fate you suffered?
Being in government industrial school, I got to meet plenty. The sister have this thing whereas a child run away from home, they call it back then it was wandering. And being there amongst these girls, a lot of these girls have been abused, and a lot of their mothers have actually sold them to men. It was either for money, it was either for drugs. Sometimes it was either because that's the man she has, so this is what it is. And if she loses him, she has nothing. She ain't got nobody to support her. And it's so hard because I actually cried with plenty of these girls and hearing their stories as well. Going to certain government agencies for help and not being listened to, not being believed.
Yeah.
Enough of them, well, enough of us actually became what they call promiscuous. Because here we're saying that these things happening to us, we're not being believed, nothing is being done, there's no investigation, there's no follow up, there's no nothing. You
Hmm.
don't feel like you have something to live for. You feel like you could buy house, take the garbage and the extra trash that these people giving you, because at least there's something afterwards. You're being paid, you're given something to eat, because back home there's nothing, there's no love, there's no communication. Women, they're being abused themselves. So we as children, what are they going to do?
How else has this experience or these experiences impacted your behavior as a teenager? What other ways?
Um,
Fighting, yes. You
Not
know,
being able to hold relationships is one. Is a issue trusting people, because you
mm,
expect if a person tell you they're gonna do something or this is what they're about, in your eyes, you don't have nothing else to do but to believe what they say. I have serious trust issues. I have issues getting close to people. Most people will tell you they have girlfriends or friends that will call them and say, "Hey, what going on, man? They got a cool spot down the road. Let me go and like." I don't have friends.
yeah.
I'm always by myself. I don't trust people. I don't give myself the opportunity to get close to people. Whether it might be relationship, it might just be acquaintance playing dominoes, it might be just going. I do not allow myself to get close to people. Furthermore, I find that I voice my opinions, sometimes not always in the best way, not always in the right place, but I've become more straightforward and less tolerant of a lot of things that I used to tolerate, or a lot of things that I would see and could easily walk away from.
Okay. A few days ago, you mentioned to me that you have zero confidence in the Child Care Board and other authorities or agencies here in Barbados that are responsible for looking after the welfare of children in particular. Uh, Tell us some more about this. How do you feel today about the agencies like the Child Care Board and other organizations, police, for example?
My biggest number one, even getting access to these people. One, calling their phones, no one answers. The phone forever rings forever for police, for childcare board, welfare, national housing, all these that I've, and I still trying to do it out to this day. You calling, you're calling, you're calling. There's no answer. And then when you do go to the offices, you sit down, you wait a whole year and a half, only to be told, you're not, how to put it, you don't have the right credentials to have the opportunity to be a part of something that can help you with your situation. But the government have so much different, how to put it, uh
What,
limitations.
yes. What do you think should be done to improve the situation with the Child Care Board in terms of how they handle these situations? What do you think needs to happen to change things in Barbados?
I feel first and first they need to go back to old school. Everybody goes and they get degrees and they get diplomas, but no one really has the, how to say, the etiquette, the patience to deal with. All right, to be realistic, not people choosing jobs because of the amount of money they're paying. You're for instance, child care board. You're supposed to be in a position where you can sit down, you can listen to a child, whoever it is. You're supposed to be able to sit down and listen to that person to begin with. Listen to that person. I mean, actually, really seriously sit down and talk with that person. Forget the mommy, the daddy, the auntie, the outside circle. Speak to the person that going through the pain, the hurt, the abuse. Speak to the actual victim. There's not much of that. How can you try to fix a situation or deal with something if you're not talking to the person that is actually going through it? You're talking to everybody else outside the circle, but the person that's actually in the circle that needs the help, I mean, practically begging, you're not listening. It's about what they think, what they see, how they think they should go about it, not how you feel or what you think or what you would like to see happening, to not really to ease the comfort, because there's no easing from abuse. The memories are always there. You might walk down the road and see a father beating a child or a mother saying something to the child and have a flashback of something that you went through. You might go through on Instagram, and the whole thing is that these people are not listening. They're more focused on, well, yeah, I got a job. If I could deal with 4 or 5 people right now and get rid of, done my job by 1, 2, 3 o'clock, get out of here.
Yeah.
Nobody don't have the. It's not about their job as in doing what they want, what they're supposed to do. It's just come work. If I get a certain amount of files due, a certain amount of work put in, and they can left, yeah, so be it. But they're not listening to us as the victims.
Yes. Okay. Okay. At this point, I want to go to station identification, and then we'll come back and continue this conversation. You're tuned into the Charlie Spice Show. I'm your host, Charlie Spice, and with me is Nikki from Barbados. Nikki is now in her 30s, but as a child, starting at 10 years old, Nikki was sexually abused on a number of occasions, and she's sharing with us this journey, how this has impacted on her life, and but I see Nikki as a survivor today. She is not a victim anymore, and I purposely did not put a list of questions down because I wanted Nikki to have the opportunity to just testify. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will continue our conversation with Nikki. We'll just go to our commercial break. This episode of the Charlie Spice Show is sponsored by Property Maintenance Network, an online recruitment platform for housekeepers, plumbers, carpenters, gardeners, electricians, and other property maintenance and cleaning professionals. Property owners, property managers, and other employers are also invited to use our platform to recruit professionals on a short-term or long-term basis. It is free to subscribe to the PMN platform. For more information, visit our website at propertymaintenance.network.
Attention community members worldwide. Are you a victim or a witness to a crime in your community? Submit the details to the new Community Crime Report platform. Our system will alert the members of all neighboring communities as part of our crime awareness and prevention initiative. Instant widespread notification of criminal activity can also result in the quick apprehension of criminals. Crime affects everyone. If you are concerned about crime in your community, sign up today on the Community Crime Report platform. It is free to sign up and free to submit crime reports. For more information, visit our website at communitycrimereport.com.
Okay, we're back. Niki, thank you very much for joining us today. I want to thank you for having the courage to come and talk to us. Now, you mentioned that you lost confidence in people, in organizations. What made you come out and start, well, to join me in this discussion today? Normally, people tend to just don't care anymore. They don't think anything is going to be done about it. What gave you the confidence to come and share your story with my audience?
I watched on Instagram a couple of weeks ago about an individual being assaulted at a school. Now, it's bad enough that, most of the time, these abuse really and truly, they start at home. Most of the time, all this abuse, they really start at home. To see a child leave home, to go to a school where she's supposed to be safe, get an education, to have someone walk off the streets onto a school compound, past the security guard with a story, whereas he should have been. First thing first to begin with, when you go to a primary school for a child, you're supposed to show an ID. The parent usually leave names of those who they want to pick up their child. You have to walk with ID. I am confused as to how this gentleman was able to go to a security guard, tell her or him he wants to speak to his child, shows no identification, does not look in the book to see, or they don't have a book, probably they don't have that set up there. Whereas you can look in the book and see his or her name and able, calls the security guard, gone to the reception area, which in a receptionist supposed to be like the second security guard. Keep your eye on who goes into the office, how she or wherever she went, for him to leave the office, to get up to a classroom. And let me tell you something, I give my hats off to those school children, those boys that they saw you in the video actually running to help that little girl. Whereas a teacher was told by a student, and this is something that I heard from one of the parents, that child was there for myself, ran to a teacher, told the teacher there's a child being assaulted. And you know what that teacher said to the child? Not me, I'm not going up there. And that is an adult, a teacher. That parents leaving, when a child leaves from home, the teachers are responsible for these children. And you're telling a child, not me, I ain't going up there. I cried, and that's the honest truth. Because it's hurtful. And not only that, across you, Charlie. Another thing is that you're seeing 13s, 14s, 15s pregnant. And you're not hearing on the news, on social media, well, so and so have been charged. This is rape. This is abuse of children. And it's so common in Barbados. And I mean, it's like, all right, you see a 14, 15 pregnant. Wait, I can't believe she dropped out of school and she pregnant already. this is what Barbados become. This is who we are.
This is also a concern of mine. I've echoed what you just said so many times. For let's say there are, for every 100 girls becoming pregnant, underage girls, how many men are prosecuted? That is the magic question there. And I would welcome the opportunity to speak to the police about this. I mean, even if a parent does not complain for whatever reason, I can't think of any
Listen to
valid
the
reason.
child. Listen to the
Listen to the child.
child.
The mere fact that a child is pregnant, it means somebody abused her. There should be sufficient ground for the police to take action. I don't.
Because not cross
They
you.
don't need to hear from the parent. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
but not cross you. You being a minor pregnant. How you able to live in the same house with your parents? How are these parents sleeping at night knowing they have a 13, 14, 15 pregnant? When she should be in school looking to further, looking, to go on to the next level of her life, because secondary school is much tougher than primary school. And then when you like secondary school, you gotta be studying about the outside world, getting a job, doing certain things. How do parents sleep at night knowing that these things are happening? And they themselves, you don't hear nothing about social media. I want this body lock up for my child, or my grandchild shouldn't be in this position, whether the child promiscuous or not, because any day most abusers turns to the quickest thing that to them eases them. They might be promiscuous, some might turn to pills, some might turn to prostitution, some might turn to cocaine. You can't just look at a person and so, oh, but them so and so. A lot of these people have been abused, but have not had someone there that they could talk to, or probably had somebody there, but did not believe them, or have persons there and those persons encouraging the behavior. Because you got mothers out there selling the girl children and their boy children. It's a fact. I had a friend couple months ago, how this young lady have two daughters, one in school, one out of school, and things was good. He's spending money around the house, whatever they want, everything good. For whatever reason, this lady tried to sell her secondary school girl child to this gentleman. And because the gentleman refused, she went to the workplace, she went to this body, she went to the police and claimed that the gentleman tried to rape and abuse the child. If it wasn't for the second daughter coming out and actually saying, my mother does do this because she did it to me as well when I was going to school, he would have been locked up. Because you know why, as the little girl said, nobody sat down with her when she went to the child care board and really asked any questions. The mother who was mostly doing the talking to make it seem as though, oh yeah, well, she didn't want to question the child. Why not? And then these as people that's supposed to be, child care board. You listening to the mother, you're going to the child.
Well, wow, interesting.
I don't ever think one conversation. This is something that is, rape has gone up in Barbados. And if you look at the types of rape they are of minors.
Yes.
And you seeing a report today, you go up on Instagram, you see a little report, today's headlines. This body have been, and that's the end of it. You don't hear a recap, you don't hear, well, this body got time, this body. And another thing I believe, and I'm seeing it in other places overseas, they need to start we'll call it, when it comes to pedophiles, a registry, because you
Yes.
got people going to prison for rape for a couple months or a couple weeks, coming back out on bail, like the same gentleman here that now assaulted this little girl, and giving her this little short space of time to come back out and do the same thing all over again. Once a predator, always a predator.
I mentioned the sex offenders registry to someone recently, and
They need it.
and he said to me that there was a pushback to that, and the basis or the argument was that, so after a person goes to prison for 4 or 5 years for a sexual offense,
My father was in there
right,
for 15.
Uh-huh.
15 for it.
Just
15.
allow me to finish what I was saying. He said after someone goes to prison for 3, 4, 5 years or 7 years for sexual a sexual offense, why should they have to suffer by being on the registry after they've served their time? And I totally disagree with that, because if there's a registry and you know that you're going to be on the registry permanently, then do not offend. Just don't offend.
Charlie,
Yeah.
Charlie, that is utterly nonsense.
Mhm.
There's some documentaries online. You have FBI files, you have Snap, you have True Crime TV. And even seeing it here in Barbados, you're seeing these gentlemen going for couple months, couple years. And let me state my father for a big example. He has been in there for 15 years. You would think that spending 15 years, when he comes out, he will at least try to find women of his age group. I've had this man showing me 18, 17, 20, 21, 116, but being my mother-in-law. Once a
Okay.
predator, Charlie, always a predator. The only difference that what people don't get, when a person is locked away out of society and they can't do what they want to do, I won't say that they're not people that won't change, but to me, the hunger for them intensifies. So on that day when they're finally released, for being cooped up so long, not being able to relish in that, that's the first thing majority of the time they're going right back and do. And then you see them in newspaper or on Instagram or Facebook all over again. You see that here the other day, a gentleman now come out from jail for a couple of years, come back out, do the same thing and now get released from jail. So it's not about a matter of them doing the time. What about the victim? What about the aftermath effect that the victim has to go through? They're struggling with depression. They don't feel like a human being. They feel like nobody loves them. They feel like nobody cares for them. They can't settle in a relationship. Some of us become parents and don't even know how to be a parent because of the abuse and because of the aftermath. Some of us don't even know how to function in society because you're so afraid. There's no trust. We just go on. We try to make it, as best as we can, teaching ourselves because there's nobody there to help us. Nobody there to really sit down and talk to. And if you just find someone to talk to, them talking with Tom, Dick, Harry, Mary Jane, and John. So then you gotta depend on yourself, and you might find a disruptive way of dealing with it. Like I say, you turn to drugs, you turn to prostitution, or your mindset. You might got a little stronger mind or a little stronger mindset to tell yourself, you know what, I went through this. Nobody else cares. I went through it. Nobody cares that I'm dealing with it. So let me try to deal with it on my own. Let me try to find I didn't find the best ways to do it at first. I used to drink till I can't remember nothing the next day. I used to wait to go home all sorts of stupid hours at a time, and I just
Mhm.
still drunk, half drunk, fully drunk, high. I turned to drugs because there was nobody there, and to me, the drugs was easing the pain. It didn't have me thinking about what I was going through or what I went through. I couldn't feel anything. When I got my first daughter, is what really made me open up my eyes and really made me check myself because I never wanted a girl child. I don't want my child to go through what I went through. And I always told the father, I do not want a girl child. Not that it don't happen to boys, but majority of the time it's girls.
Yeah. Mhm.
And he didn't give me one, he gave me two. And I pray, don't laugh, Charlie. I mean, because this is such a serious.
Yeah.
I mean, how can men or women? Because I read a couple of years ago, a woman was actually charged for raping a youngster, a male youngster.
Yeah.
This is so serious. And then people saying that young people are the future, but how can we be the future if we are not being able to? What was the right word? Help me, Charlie. To go on, you don't ever feel like living. I have tried to commit suicide to myself 3 times. I've taken pills.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it has gone to the extent whereas I don't want to live. I'm trying to talk to people turning against me, people shunning me, people looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, It doesn't matter, like, oh, that happened in years, that ain't a big thing. That happening in every saint. But then when you see us as young people on the street doing certain things, and you talking about, oh, this body, punny blood, this boy shooting, but you don't know what that person have been through. And most of us, or enough of us, have been abused. There's nobody in the home that actually stand up and say, putting the foot down, saying, hey, this is wrong. This gotta stop.
Okay.
This is not right.
Don't misinterpret my reaction just now at all. I take this all very seriously, and I'm purposely not interjecting unnecessarily because I'm happy to give you a platform to air your views and in some cases your frustration. But unfortunately, Nikki, we are almost out of time for this interview. I want to thank you very much for having the courage to come onto the show, and I am very happy to be in a position to give you a voice to share with my audience, and I'm sure that this will resonate not only with the general public but also with other victims slash survivors, and I hope it resonates with the police and the child care board and other organizations charged with the responsibility of protecting our young people in Barbados. The Ministry of Education, I hope they tuned in. They too can perhaps take something away from this that will cause them to make necessary changes. So, Nikki, I want to.
For 1 minute before you go, Charlie, I just want to say to those out there, whether you're a child, whether you're an adult that's going through abuse, for all the children, speak out about it. Say something. Make sure if you gotta tell 100 people, everybody you come across, speak up about it. It's not good to hold it in. It destroys your whole entire self. It changes you, especially your mind, completely. If you're being abused, tell a teacher, tell your school friend, tell somebody. Make sure, even if you gotta get to the police station yourself, don't mind. I have said I don't have much faith in the system. Everything that happens for one person does not necessarily happen to the same. So it does not mean because there wasn't anybody there for me, there's not going to be somebody there for you. Speak up about it. Do not hold it in. Do not let it continue. Speak up about it.
Very good advice. Okay, Nikki, once again, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show. We are out of time, and perhaps we could have a follow-up discussion to this. I'm going to reach out to a number of organizations in Barbados and to see whether or not they could come on the show and respond to some of your concerns or some of the things that actually happened to you. Again, thank you very much. I want to say, God bless you. I have the greatest respect for you becoming a survivor of this and not remaining a victim. You did an admirable job, of testifying, and I want you to have a wonderful weekend. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you for being a voice for us victims.
No, you're more than welcome. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of this episode of the Charlie Spice Show. I would like to thank our sponsors, guests, and our production team. I would also like to thank our listeners for tuning in and giving us an audience. We appreciate your support. If you have an interesting story to share with our audience, we invite you to be a guest on the show. Please contact our production team at charliespice@gmail.com, Twitter @charliespice, or visit our website at charliespice.com. We hope you enjoyed our broadcasts. You can listen to a repeat of this episode in the archives at any time in the future. Simply go to our website and follow the links. I'm your host, Charlie Spice, saying goodbye for now. Peace. I'm out.